we are here, the Convo Sutra. This is a great episode with 4 unbelievable Desis, including me.
I'm Feraz. I know most of you. We just met today. I've been doing stand-up for like 15 years and then writing on TV shows for the last 4.5 and acting in between all of that. Started in San Diego and moved here about 10 years ago.
I'm Naomi. I've known Tarun for a long time, so he asked me to be here to give a little bit of a different perspective, I guess, non-entertainment type. But glad to meet you guys. I met you guys today.
Hey, Natasha, Chandel. I'm also a TV writer, former producer turned TV writer, comedian, and I host a podcast called Kinda Dating.
This is literally like an AA meeting right now.
I know.
Thanks for doing this. And the reason why I wanted to put this together because there's nothing which kind of shows the Desi perspective. Look, obviously put together 2 hot Desi girls because I wanted people to see.
Oh, yay.
But I wanted to get your perspective on the dating scene.
I talk about this all day, so I feel like somebody else should talk about it.
I actually have to get your advice on things. I'm very new to dating because I was in a very long relationship, like 9 years. Oh, wow. So I'm like brand new to dating. Like I haven't been single since before the dating apps existed.
We actually just dropped an episode called So You're Single Again, literally about this, about people who like have been in either long-term relationships or just like got a divorce or, sadly widowers or whatever. Like suddenly you're in the dating pool. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
But how are you finding it?
Well, I haven't started yet because
girl, they're gonna be on you.
Yeah. Well, I'm about to find out probably sooner than later. I've been procrastinating with that whole thing because I'm so used to like getting to know someone for a really long time, and then the whole straight. I'm pretty good with like meeting strangers, like friends, but I'm used to having such a level of trust before I meet a guy in like a romantic aspect. So we'll see. I'll have to just watch your podcast.
Yeah. Listen, I do dating coaching too, you know. It's a gig economy. I do everything right now. So
Were you excited to jump in, like jumping back in knowing that the dating apps are out there? Were you like, wow, this could be cool and efficient? Or were you like, this is weird shit that I'm not sure I'm gonna get used to?
I think it's weird because then I've noticed that I will see a picture of a guy and then it does not actually tell me at all if that person is attractive to, like if I'm attracted to that person, because how someone like holds themselves and like how they dress, and honestly, a lot of guys are not photogenic.
Most
so,
are
like,
not.
how
Most don't know how to take pictures.
Yeah.
They don't know their angles.
They're holding a fish they just caught that's covering half their body.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
from like a purely superficial point of view, which is what I guess what like an app is, because it's not like you can understand someone's personality in their bio. I can't even tell if it's someone I'd be excited about
Are
meeting.
you looking for Indian guys particularly or anything?
So I've never dated an Indian guy. But then
Wow.
That's it. I mean, everybody's got their preferences or whatever it is. I mean, from my experience, like of hearing other people, like now I'm engaged, so I'm out.
Congrats.
But I met my fiance on a dating app. So we met on Hinge 3 weeks before the lockdowns. Before that, I was never on them. And like I've done this podcast for 7-8 years now, and it's like I've talked to so many people around the world, and like everybody says dating is hard. So it's not just an LA thing, and I'm always trying to tell people it's not just an LA thing. Every city does have its own issues, and I think LA's issue is, of course, the superficiality of it all and kind of the, you know, for guys, sorry, y'all got Peter Pan syndrome over here. You know, everybody's trying to still live out their 20s all the time. But conversely, guys feel like women want them for money, and they want, you know, guys who are only put together for, you know, sugar daddies. And for me, I'm always just telling people like dating apps and all these things are just tools. Like it can't be it's not your relationship, you know, it's just a tool to get you to meet somebody, and like dating is just trial and error, and you got to just go out and try it. And like everybody always says like dating is hard, and I got to just say one thing, like straight up, guys, dating is not hard. Okay? Being half a human with somebody for an hour of your life is not hard. We do it all the time, right? The hardest part about dating is managing your feelings before and after a date.
This is deep stuff.
Right? But that's it. Everything goes back to like, oh my God, I didn't match with this guy. It means I'm going to die alone. Yeah. Oh my God, they have a terrible laugh. I'll never like somebody. I'm going to die alone. Like, it always comes back to that.
You also have to not build them up in your mind before
Yeah.
you meet them. And that's something I've noticed, like, I hear a lot of my friends doing when they're showing me their profile that they're a guy that they're matching up on. I'm like, you made a whole persona before you even met the person, like based on a little bit of information on their Instagram, a little bit of things like what they're following.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just,
Girls are always like, what would Natasha Martinez sound like? Yeah, that sounds really good. And it's like right after the first date, you're like, whoa, breathe.
that's intense.
Guys have a different perspective. I think we're just trying to like just meet a girl and just have fun initially. What do you think?
You're
for
trying
us?
to fuck.
Yeah,
Get the fuck out of here. You're trying to fuck.
Feraz, what do you think? What's the guy's
No, I like it. You
perspective?
started off talking about how you're just like a fuck boy, and then you just wanted to volley it right to me.
Yeah, you know
Just
what?
set me right up.
Dig me out of this.
Yeah, no, I'll just dig us a deeper hole. Yeah, because I don't know if dating is hard, like from a guy's or from, I can only speak to my perspective, I guess, but like, I feel like, I don't know if dating is hard. I feel it's more like when you go past dating, it can get hard. Like when you get to that point, like the first month can be easy. You meet someone, you're having fun, you're hanging out, even if they have an annoying laugh or they fucking chew their mouth open or some shit, you're like, all right, I can get past this. Let's see what sex is like, right? But after you get past that, if it gets kind of good, then if that goes on for a month or two and you're like, okay, well now I need to figure out, do we go to the next step so I don't feel like I'm wasting this person's time? Because I do think it's super important to always be
3-month
respectful.
window. You got a 3-month window.
I think 2 to 3 month window is reasonable. Like if you dating someone, especially I can speak for like when I'm married now, but when I wasn't, I dated a lot. And I feel like as long as you're open and honest with what you want and where you are mentally and what you're looking for, you normally have at least 2 months without the woman feeling like disrespected or you wasted their time or you're playing them, as long as you let them know like, hey, you know, I'm in a place right now where I'm trying to figure things out and just want things to be casual until we feel like it's time for the next step. But that's when it does get tough, is when you decide, okay, let's try to make this happen, because then there's just a lot more coming into play. You know?
But also, dudes, y'all are never honest. Y'all are never honest.
I was always 110%
You're
honest.
one of the outliers. But
Yeah.
I feel like most women feel like dudes just, they'll give a finger, take a hand. If a girl keeps being like, all right, I'll see how this goes, month 2. And I have the same thing. I tell people on the podcast all the time, like, listen, if they haven't locked that shit down, or at least said like you're exclusive within 2 to 3 months, like,
Well, break that down. What's not? What do they lie about?
Well, no, most people aren't honest about what they even want because they don't know what they want, right? A lot of guys don't know how they're feeling, so they're just like, all right, like, I'm gonna have fun. But then when she starts pressing and being like, hey, so what's happening? He is forced
And
to think about it.
And I'll add to that too. They're also dishonest because they want to have their pussy and eat it too. You know what I mean?
Thank
They wanna-
you.
This
they
works
want-
both ways,
let
by
me-
the way.
let
It's
me-
not just guys.
For sure. Let me just finish this thought. Like,
Yeah.
it's a thing where it's like like I would say, I don't know if you know what it's going to be. You go out, date whoever you want also, and like, because you have to be secure enough and have not attached to the person enough to like be okay to know that they're fucking other guys and you're fucking other girls, but you can still like each other and build your love and your connection amidst those things happening. Most guys want the girl to not fuck anyone else, but they want to fuck other people. So they'll lie and act like, oh, we're just going to build this thing together because they can't mentally cope with knowing they're getting another dick. But if you empower the woman and give them the option to be like, hey, you can go and explore whatever you want. I'm totally cool with that. I want to keep exploring also, and we'll just see where this goes. Guys will be like super surprised with how many women are like, okay, cool. I'm not that fucking into you either, dude. Like, I'm happy to go keep exploring. I'm glad we have this honest dialogue. And then you can both just move forward, you know?
And it doesn't even have to be about like being into somebody or not being into somebody. Because like when my fiance and I met, like I always say like, until you are exclusive, you are not exclusive. And I tell everybody, do not put all your eggs in one basket, because the whole point is you're exploring each other, but you don't owe anybody to tell them you are fucking somebody else or hanging out with somebody else, and they don't owe you. So if somebody asks, not your fucking business. And that shows that that person is insecure. Because my partner and I, we were both dating other people until we decided we weren't.
Desi guy or
and
white dude?
no, he's from Spain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Spanish, European. So very fucking progressive, those
See,
guys.
the European thing's another angle, though.
Yeah, it is. It is. It definitely helps a lot because, like, but he and I are so open about the fact that we both had, I'm the opposite of you. You were in a 9-year relationship. I just fucked a lot. for a long, long time, and it very admittedly. So like, I'm not apologetic about it. I'm like, if I was single, I fucked. Like, sorry, I'm not a baby. And he did too. So like, but we've never asked each other how many numbers, whatever. It was like, whatever life you had before, good on you. But we both felt like we got all of that out of our system, and now we're very good. So we were very secure when we both came into it.
Naomi, did you ever want to get that out of your system after 9 years?
The thing is that for me, like, to be really attracted to someone to like the highest extent, like, it's me really loving them, and it's just, that's why I didn't have that, because I was already with the person that I was going to be in love with the most.
Yeah.
So everyone else was just kind of annoying.
Wait, why are you? What's your deal? You're single.
I'm a head case. You know, I have gone through. I'm actually not a player. I've only had like a few relationships.
Says every player ever.
Yeah, I've had a few relationships, and now I feel like I'm more productive single, and I don't even date now. I just kind of do my own thing. I'm also broken on the inside, I feel like.
All right, I think that's the answer.
Yeah, I was like, we're just circling the drain to get to what
Is
happened.
this podcast just therapy for you?
Pretty much. That's why I wanted you guys to come to listen to my problems. No, I just...
Isn't every podcast?
But what's been your, I know, right? What's been your experience, though? You asked that question. What was your experience dating in LA?
Well, I'll give you the long story short. Spent a lot of time as a comic in my 20s, 30s. I just went through, I got a job, I was working on money. So I went through different ethnicities, a white girl, Indian girl, Asian girl even. But a guy once said this, I'm sure Feraz, no, every girl's same with a different head.
It's the same with,
right? Same
it's
with
the
guys.
same with guys.
Same with guys, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is on me too. It's not just the girl. And there's something's in me that I've got to fix, So I was like, let me just get my shit clear. And then when the right person comes, I'll feel energy. And if it doesn't happen, so be it. I really like my life. And, I'm not chasing to get laid all the time like I used to be. Maybe I'm getting older. But I don't know. What do you think, dude?
No, I want to stay on you.
Yeah.
So ethnically, you're open to any ethnicity. You don't feel pressure from any parental forces or external communal forces to feel like you have to find one type of race or not.
When my mom was alive, I felt like I had to get with an Indian girl. Even though she never put that pressure on me, I was like, oh, you know what? I had this fantasy. I mean, we all had this fantasy. Come on. Right? Maybe not.
I did.
Was very open.
Well, I
But
did.
What
this
is your partner?
But this is what's great is
Yeah.
and that's what I love about this is that it's to show that it's not a monolith, right? That it's like Desi people, whether it's in the West and maybe even abroad. I don't know that many Desi people in India or Pakistan, but like you can have people who did fantasize about wanting like a Desi wedding and that type of family and to have Desi kids and build them up with that culture. Or you could have people like you said you've never felt really that way.
I was just
either.
very like, it just needed to be a good person. I
Yeah,
just didn't
same.
care.
I actually
never
felt
had
opposite.
any-
I actually felt like I wasn't sure that meeting because of where I grew up and stuff. It's like I always felt like I'd be less likely to find a Desi girl that would mesh with my lifestyle and the shit that I'm into. And then as I grew up, maybe that wasn't the case, but that was the baggage and the truth that I picked up between middle school and early high school. And I'm sure most of those kids were all doing the exact same shit and smoking weed and fucking and doing shrooms or whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I felt like if I went to a Desi function or something, I'd be like, all right, I can't let any of these motherfuckers know what I'm really into. To be my true self and whoever I wanted to be, I needed to find something outside of that community. And that just, that affected who I thought I'd end up with.
And it's interesting because I grew up in Toronto where we were just surrounded by Desis. So my longest relationships when I was young, I was in I was in 4 years with a Desi guy, 2.5 years with another Desi guy. And I learned for me, it was the opposite, that I was open to everybody. I didn't care. But they were very controlling of me because I was so outgoing. I was in media, I was in entertainment, I was out and about. And then I realized, there's some cultural effects of that, I think in our culture, especially back then, girls didn't do that kind of stuff. So, it was even like going to a party or going to an event, and as simple as this, right? Like we meet somebody, you go, you're not actually kissing them, but that ended up becoming a giant fight, and that was when I was like, and when I became successful when I was younger in Canada, that became a problem for one of my boyfriends, and it was like, you either choose me or your career. And I was so dumb, I chose him.
Ugh.
Never do that, girls.
That's old school.
But that's what I don't know. Do you feel like that as like a South Asian woman? Like I do think that there's some people that are still not comfortable, guys, with women who do what we do, you know, who are out there. And I did notice a difference when I dated outside the culture of people who were more secure around certain things, but not all. I mean, I had an ex who I was living with who was a white guy who was very insecure about my socials. And I was like, I'm like, you have, literally everything's open. I'm like such an open book. But my partner now doesn't give a shit.
Is that an age thing though? Because I feel like at a certain point you're like, fuck it, you know what? However you judge me, I mean, what do you think? Like coming back into the
You know,
dating
when
pool?
she was speaking, I was just thinking about the fact that maybe it has to do with their relationship with their moms and how judgmental their moms are and how close they are to that mother who's judgmental. So, for example, I grew up thinking I was going to do an arranged marriage. I'm like straight up born in India. Like I left when I was younger, but you know, my parents were like very.
We're in India.
And so I was born in New Delhi, but like we're Himachali. And so I have like a very conservative family. Like, you know, my parents met for like 2 hours before they got married. Wow. And
A whole
everyone,
2 hours?
It was maybe like, you know, I don't know.
That's a lot.
Maybe it was an hour and my mom thought it was 2 hours.
They met on a podcast.
Yeah. So, you know, I grew up when it came to dating or anything in life in a Western society. Like I was just always a black sheep eventually when I stopped sipping the Kool-Aid. But when guys have, and I think this could be true for girls too, but like when guys have a really controlling mother who's like kind of really like involved in their lives and very judgmental about who they date, that could be like a thing too, where they want to kind of control what your career is. Like, you know, I did do modeling back in the day, and I did like kind of like even close friends with a guy whose mom was very judgmental. It was like, oh, why are you doing that? You're from a conservative family, and you can have that in Latin culture too.
You can still get an arranged marriage though if you wanted to. I mean,
No, first of all,
you're gonna get like 1,000 matches on Bumble. by
I know.
tomorrow.
Now that everybody knows she's single, it's gonna be like slide in her DMs.
have you seen
But
some
you
of
gotta
those
tell people what
videos?
you're looking for.
Oh, I mean,
Is it that video
Maybe I
right
think I
now
have to-
that's
I
out? Have you heard it?
Have you seen that video?
What is
the
it like?
matrimonial videos? like
No,
with their-
no. Have you heard that TikTok thing of I'm looking for
guy
like,
in finance, 6'5", something blue eyes.
Where's that from?
It's just,
Does
I think
anyone
it's a TikTok girl who just was like doing like a spoof about what she did, that kind of like that extra Valley girl
Yeah.
California
So it was a
accent.
character to begin with?
Yeah, it was just a spoof.
And
then
they're
people
playing it
ran
in
with
like EDM concerts now
Yeah.
with, I hope she's
But
getting
now there's the
royalties.
Desi one too.
What's
I'm
the
looking
I
for a
saw
girl
that.
with long hair, low iron. What was it?
Brown eyes.
Yeah, brown eyes, attitude.
That could be like a Desi girl anthem.
Yeah.
Do
But
we
yeah, I
have
could
low
tell people-
iron?
Listen,
you
my
have low
health
iron?
issues are very complicated.
Okay, well,
I'm a naturally tired
This is the
person.
good stuff.
But I think you touched upon a good thing. I mean, I love that a lot of therapy touch points I see in there, like in terms of how parents, you know, affect someone in the kid and then they bring that to their adult life and everything. But I think it's like the mom, absolutely, but even it's, and this kind of brings us into, I think, some of the stuff we wanted to talk about in terms of the culture itself. Like the culture can be judgmental. The culture can be very domineering in terms of you need to be this kind of person, date this kind of person, present yourself in this type of way to the external world. And guys bring that to relationship, girls bring that to relationships, and then that's something we all have had to think about navigating this industry too, right? In terms of like, what are you making and what will brown crowds respond to? When will brown crowds troll the fuck out of you? You know what I mean? Because they're sometimes the most judgmental. It's like you want to represent your people at the same time. It's like handcuffs because then they think you need to represent them in only this singular way. There's a lot of weird baggage in that entire thing, right?
Daisies only care if you're successful. There's going to be dollar signs. But wait, I'm curious, is your wife Daisy or is she like another?
No, she's white and like part Aztec.
There's a theme here.
Look, like they're really great South Asian men and women, and I think you just have to find your fit, right? Like my friends in Toronto specifically want South Asian men. Like that's what they want, right? They're Indian women. They want a brown guy, and it's a very cultural thing because they feel like they get him. But it's just a fucking lottery, you know? It's like you're finding a needle in a haystack. I just think be open to everybody. in general, because at the end of the day, you're just looking for a good person that vibes with you, you know?
Yeah.
But I definitely don't want to, like, I don't want people to think that, like, brown people are not,
Yeah, same. I
You know.
1,000% agree. It's like whoever comes across that you connect with, and this person just happened to be this race. I mean, we live in California, in the
Yeah.
United States, where, you know, ratio-wise, percentage probability-wise, I'm more likely to meet someone that's not Desi compared to the multitude of people you meet.
100%.
It's just
I've-
literally a percentage thing.
I've totally said that too. I said, if
Yeah.
I were in Toronto, I would have ended up with a brown
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
But I do feel being in entertainment adds a layer of complexity, which I don't think, if you come from a traditional background, it's hard to understand that. Like, oh my God, my husband's, I don't know how much road work you do. My husband's on the road, you know, three weeks out of the month, you know,
Yeah.
or
That-
there's no check coming in for the next 6
1,000%.
months.
Or even if you were to think about what would their parents say, right? Like if it was their in-laws. Like my mom did have a period where she'd be like, well, this person's parents were asking about if you'd be interested in meeting their daughter or whatever. It'd be like, and this was like 9 years ago, but let them know I make $100 in fucking shitty bars around the country 4 nights a
Yeah.
week if I'm lucky. And I don't know when that's going to change, and they can strap the fuck in, or, you know, then, or keep it moving. You know what I mean? And I was joking. I was always just knew that it probably wouldn't, you know what I mean, align with whatever their expectations were, and that I'm not going to raise my kids with any religion because I'm just like an agnostic fucking neo-hippie that says annoying LA words like energy. You know, so like if that's who you are organically, and now the comments are going to blow up, this guy wants to be white so badly. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're
Totally.
not exactly the kind of brown person they think you need to be, or people can just be like, you're trying so hard to not be this. They can't fucking grasp that organically from the situation you've been born and raised in, you didn't end up like them.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I think sometimes people worry that all Desis might be that way, but it's not. It's just the loudest people are often the most fucking annoying. The annoying people are the loudest. You know what I mean? Whether it's
Always.
fundamentalists or it's trolls on the internet.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
Man, shut the fuck up.
But there's cool people, you know what I mean? There's plenty of cool and brown people, Desi people of all different, you know, into all sort of different things and lifestyles. They're out there. So if that's what you are looking for and want that, like, that's out there. You just got to go out
Yeah.
and keep looking.
I will say, as somebody who's, so please go ahead.
No, I was saying to your point about this guy's trying to be white so bad, about not fitting the mold of like what interests are. I used to get that comment all the time because I'd be posting like rock music in my stories or posting about like going to that kind of concert. And even in high school, you know, I had band shirts and that's something I'd get. Oh, she's trying to be white so bad. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why can't it just like Radiohead? You know, why
Yeah.
can't it just like connect with me? And if anything, like listening to depressing music, maybe actually we can connect with
Hence the
growing
black
up.
look.
Yeah, well, maybe we can connect with it more being misunderstood
Yeah.
and like our like sometimes conservative families, but even our like very like culturally restrictive kind of upbringing. And like if you don't like hip hop, it doesn't mean, you know,
course.
you just don't like hip hop.
I mean, at the end of the day, it just comes down to like, there are people who are really insecure in their own skin, right? And they just want to project onto you. So I learned a long time ago to just not give a fuck about what people think in that way. I used to get a lot of shit too because I'm not public about relationships, even though, I mean, on my podcast I am, but I don't post about it on socials. And, you know, people always said, like, for a long time, they were like, oh, she hates Indian guys. And then I'd be like, do you want me to tell you how long I was with somebody for 4 years? I was with somebody for 2.5 years. I was like literally with a guy in India.
I want
I'm
the
like,
list.
yeah, right? I was like, and I'm like super Indian, but people would be like, she's not Indian. I was like, why do we have to wear these things on our sleeves to be something?
Why aren't you
know?
walking around with a bindi on?
Yeah, literally. And I'm like, do you go to India? Like, nobody does that stuff. Or in Pakistan, like, nobody does that stuff.
I
So,
think they have some of them have a hard time literally grasping. It's like people, because on the internet now, we literally could have fans that are literally in India. or
yeah, all the time.
Pakistan. I don't know how censored it is. But like, I think they have sometimes a hard time literally understanding what it is to be raised, or let alone born and raised in the West, and how that makes you like a literal melting pot of a fucking spirit. Like, you know, like literally if I would go back and visit my cousins, they thought I was putting on an American accent. They would be like,
Yeah.
they'd be like, why do you talk like that? Why are you trying so hard to talk
Yeah,
like that? I'm like,
yeah.
I'm not trying to talk like this. What the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
Like they can't Like if that's the foundational level of misunderstanding, to then try to express like tattoos or what you're into, or if you're into Radiohead or whatever you're into, it's like, you know?
But what's crazy to me is like there's two sides of it. One, in it, at least I can speak from India. I grew up, my family's from Bombay and Delhi. I go there a lot. My parents spent half the year there, so all my family's there. People have tats. People are living together. They're wilding out way more than we are over
India's
here.
Americanized.
Yeah. But then the other part of it is, and this is my little PSA to our Desis in Asia. Please don't hate us, okay? That we are fitungs and fucking NRIs and all this stuff, because I'm like, they get so mad at us for being here and being like Indians in North America, and I'm always like, it wasn't my fault that my parents moved and I'm born here. Like there's, but they also don't understand the traumas that we have gone through being here to represent our culture. Like Feraz and I are TV writers. I'm sure you are we're part of the South Asian Writers Committee. We are fucking committed to try to show South Asian stories on camera. People don't understand how hard that is, because when you go back to India, they don't have to compete with anybody. Everybody's like them. So their competition it's more about stories in a different way. Where for us here, we're like, hey man, we're championing our culture. Like we're not the anti-South Asian. We're actually like very much love our culture. It's just not our fault that we were born here. So be nice to us.
I never got that impression though, because I spent all my summers in Bombay and Bangalore growing up. And I always felt like they're really open. I mean, obviously I was in like these insular bubbles there.
Yeah.
I wasn't like integrated in society in school, but I always felt like they were open to me. I never felt different in terms of like some, animus or something coming back in me. I felt like they were cool with me. Maybe I just haven't been there recently.
I mean, I think in our families, like, of course, like my families love us, but they don't make fun of you for your accent or your what you're wearing or the.
I mean, if anything, I felt self-conscious. Having the backwards baseball cap or whatever. We see like guys like holding hands in India, and like, oh my gosh, should I be holding my brother's hand or something? But honestly, these are just cultural things. But I never felt. I'm also a kid from New Hampshire. I never felt. Maybe I'm not self-aware about things that are happening. So
I don't know. I get a lot of comments on social media.
You made a really good point that it's like the young people there are wilding out and doing the same shit, right? And it's funny that, and I think it is changing over here, because I've been in this business for 15 years. I've been doing stand-up for 15 years, and it's changed a lot from the types of shows I would do and the types of crowds and what it was to have it, what it meant to do a show, a Desi show, and what those crowds expected from me and how conservative I needed to be, versus now 15 years later, there's a fucking amazing influx of like young Desi people, and at least I can just speak to, this United States, that are like us, that are completely like us. So it's like, they're into that shit. So it's cool to see that next wave coming where we could be like, Latino comics that are able to be crass and raw and edgy, and there be crowds of Desi people that are hip to it and not judgy and basically probably relating to a lot of the stuff we're saying, and are just like, this is tight, and this fucking guy or girl gets me. You know?
I'm gonna take a stance on this, because I feel like Desi audiences do not support the way Mexican audiences do, black audiences do. I feel like once you're a name, they'll come out in droves, but like, man, I just don't see the support, and please disagree with me. If you
I
think.
do see the support. This is something I was going to mention. You guys are in comedy, and it's a little bit different. I've noticed in the fashion blogging community, like these NRI girls and even girls in India, they're like building up these Indian fashion bloggers. Even that song that you mentioned, that song, Brown Eyes,
brown
low
hair,
iron, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All these girls are sharing it. I think like because we're just so excited to see these pages and see into like another Indian girl's life, and like us being represented in like a good light, because media does not do enough to portray us in like great roles where someone is like the main girl and she's like stylish and everything. So I see in like the fashion blogging world, like Indian pages like really took off, and it's because there's support there. And if you read the comments, they're really uplifting.
From India or from America?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen that with fashion blogging pages. I've seen that there's a lot of support out there, and it is it's a high engagement rate. of support, which is, what really propels these pages.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's really great to hear, and I could see that happening. I think like from a comedy perspective, the reason you don't see that same thing is kind of going back to what I was saying generationally. Like, you could be a Mexican comedian and you don't have to be like conservative, because there's Mexicans of all ages, right? You could have 50-year-old, 60-year-old Mexicans in the crowd being like, fuck yeah, with a drink, and like, you know what I mean, relating to what you're saying. But in a lot of South Asian communities, especially, I can speak more to Pakistani ones, right? It's like, if I'm going to a show where I know there's going to be a lot of 45 plus Pakistani people, or even a lot of Indian people, it's like that greatly undercuts what type of edgy stuff I can do. Like generationally, if you have a crowd of 35 and under Desis, yes, you could talk about partying, fucking, whatever. You know what I mean? Over 40, like, you gotta navigate that. Like even comics, like even Persian comics like Maz Jobrani, who's like the biggest Iranian comic, you know what I mean? He keeps it pretty clean. And that's why he was able to get, and Persians support each other like crazy. Of course.
They
but
really
like,
do.
You know what I mean? They're like so good about that. But I think that if you're a Desi comic and you did the Maz approach and you were like family friendly, then you'd be able to build an army and like get a bunch of people to go see your show. But if you're edgy, you have cut that audience down by like 70% traditionally. But that's my point, is I do think it's changing now, which is really cool. I think going forward, you'll be able to have crowds between ages 21 to 55 of Desi people that are down with whatever you're talking about. But that wasn't the case 15 years ago.
See, I always thought it was more basic, like, and I feel bad because I don't want to misrepresent Mexicans or the black community because nobody's here to speak on their behalf. But I always felt like, you go to the Haha Cafe, it's like, that's the night out for like Mexicans. Let's go to the Friday night to the Haha and get like shit-faced. For Indians, they're like, we're going to go to the comedy club. This is like beneath us, Like, that's why.
You think that?
Now, I mean, they're doing like South Asian nights and stuff like that, and they're doing
special
really well.
nights, but I feel like it's not consistent.
Yeah.
I think it's not part of it's traditionally not, it's not as rooted in the culture, There've been Latino comics since the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas stand-up comedy itself has started to blossom in India proper within the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, was that guy, Virdas and all those guys, they didn't exist 20 years ago, you know what I mean? So it's brand new to Asian culture. Like, our parents never went to a stand-up show. When they came here, they certainly didn't, or I could speak to my own, and there weren't any stand-up comics working in the scene here. It just wasn't part of the culture. Like, when I perform at like Desi corporate events of any kind, dude, so many people come up to me and go, that's my first time ever seeing stand-up comedy. Or like, some people don't even know what it is, really. You kind of I would have to explain to relatives what the concept is.
So many horror stories, by the way.
Of course, the worst shows. But like, it's rooted in the that's part of it. If it's not part of the culture, they don't even think to go do it. They don't even know. And then if they do go, and you go to Haha Cafe and you just see these guys talking about raw dogging or something, you know what I mean? They're going to be like, well, we're never coming back here again, if they're conservative. So there's two layers. It's not in the culture, and there is kind of a conservative. They need to go to clean comedy, a lot of them.
Naomi, as being the person without, not the comedian, you actually go to comedy shows and...
That's like one of my favorite things to do is go to like Laugh Factory. And there's this group they throw on music events called Indo Warehouse. And they performed at the Sound here in LA, and they're really good EDM musicians who are Indian, and they like do this fusion thing. And I just remember thinking, like, if there was more of that, there'd be more of like a culture to like go to these like EDM concerts and stuff like that. And like he was saying, from the 70s, they've had like Latino comics.
That's what's actually really exciting about right now. That's what's really cool, is like we're seeing the shift in a lot of avenues for the arts, where more and more people are finding out about those things, and it is growing more and more and more. So it's really cool to see like, what's it all going to look like 10 years from now? Like how many even now, dude,
that
I used
sucks
to be,
for us. I mean,
dude, I used to be the only, you're like, I'll be old by then. No, but like I used to be the only South Asian comic on most lineups when I started, or Middle Eastern, or whatever fucking they wanted to throw me in, right? But now it's so often there'll be like at least one other guy or girl that's like on the lineup, and I'm like, this is tight, And I think musically, like those two Sikh dudes like were at Coachella, and they like their stages were packed, and they like tore it down, like great reviews. So many things are entering the mainstream in a pretty cool way, in group, like from South Asians seeing it exist and supporting it, and also externally, like non-South Asians just being like, whoa, that's kind of dope. I want to like follow these guys,
I think I understand where you're coming from, and I think it was rooted in the fact that like South Asian culture, if you think about probably all of our childhoods. It was, you have to be the top of the class. That next person sitting next to you is your competition. That other Indian kid, you better fuck him. If you do not get 9% and that kid gets 100, you are getting beat that night. You know what I mean? Like, that was what we grew up with. I remember one, lovely kid, Fahad, hey Fahad, that, we
Shout
were
out to
pinned,
Fahad.
we were pinned against each other as the two smartest brown kids in class, and like we hated each other like in Never Have I Ever, have you seen the main character, Devi and Ben? It was like that, and I was like, oh man, that was me and Fahad, and it was because we were two brown kids who were really smart, so it was always very, like, we were trained to be competitive with each other. It was as I grew older that I realized, and I took from black culture because all my friends growing up were black, and I was like, oh man, everybody just supports everybody like blindly. And then I learned, oh, we need to start doing that. And I find like in Canada, we've come a long way because in the beginning, people didn't trust that the intention was pure. So they were still really competitive. Then finally, over time, they got to a place where now everybody like loves each other and they hang out and they support each other and they do the whatever. So for me coming to America, I feel like we're still where Canada was 15, 20 years ago, and now we're getting to a place where we're like, hey, we don't have to compete with each other. Like, it's that whatever cliches, it doesn't have to be the one spot at the table. Like, we can bring the damn table. And so now I think people are realizing there's power in numbers and we don't have to compete. But I still don't think South Asians understand the economics of art as much, right? And partially because South Asians in America have had a lot more money than the Latinos and black communities. So they don't understand the importance of showing up at a movie theater at opening night for Monkey Man. Like, they don't get it, right? Where everybody came for Black Panther because they know that this community has not been able to be as affluent on a box office, and we need to fucking show everybody so that we can create generational wealth. We, South Asians, have never felt that plight in America as much. So I don't feel like they get the, like, yo, come support Feraz and I doing shows, because that's the only way we will grow and make money and be able to increase the culture in a mainstream way.
Yeah, because even more than the money, right? It's like affecting, like you said, the culture. Like,
listen, I like money. I don't know about you. I want money.
I mean, no, the money has to be there. I'm not doing without the money. No, but like the zeitgeist, like being able to
Totally.
affect the image of our people in media, and therefore in society and in culture, and then in politics. Like, there's real world tangible effects that follow from entering the mainstream and being able to control the image and perception, right? And I think, to your point, like, some of the older generations didn't really fully grasp that, but I think it is changing quite a bit. And yeah, the social media just changed everything. The ability to like quantify how many people are seeing something, sharing something, and if like, hey, brown people be fucking, there's a lot of us. So it's like, if the masses of brown people would just like get on the same page about different things like Monkey Man or whatever else, share it, sell it, buy tickets, and that became like the next Crazy Rich Asians, or Everything Everywhere All at Once, then that sends a message to the producers that, hey, Desi projects equal dollar signs, let's make more of them get made, and all of the old negative images that were in the culture for so long will just get washed away. Distant memories 10 years from now, when we're able to control the narrative on what we are and how we want to appear in media.
That's going to be a long-term process, but you said something that's really interesting to me. I mean, put aside the audience support, do you think artists, South Asian artists, help each other?
I honestly, personally, I do, and I know I try not to fall into the trap of like, oh, we're all competing with each other and all this shit. I just don't care. Somebody else might not support. I don't care. I will always support. And I do think it's changing. I chair the South Asian Writers Committee. Now we have almost 200 members of WGA writers. We literally support each other. Feraz is part of that group, and we're truly committed to being like, hey, not every job is meant for me. Like, we put up and send these lists out of all available South Asian writers, and it could be like both of us are comedy writers, but I would totally pitch Feraz for the same thing if somebody goes, hey, we're looking for these kinds of...
For a job you're up against? You pitch for-
100%. I have done it. I had Fox, SVP of Fox say, hey, we're looking for South Asian multicam writers. We put a note out to everybody in the group, and I said, I put myself also in there, but I said, here are a list of people that actually do this, and we would love for these people to be considered, because it's not, again, not every single thing is meant for us, but like if we start thinking about it like there's enough to go around. And if Feraz goes up, hopefully one day he would refer me for something that would go up. If it's comics, like I love, like I've gotten jobs because like Russell Peters has put me up for stuff that got me paid.
Yeah, but
you
Russell's
know?
on another level. Like
No, but
he
he doesn't have to support, and he does, you know, when he's able to, at least for me.
I'm talking about people like on our, like, what do you think, Naomi?
Well, one thing I was thinking about is a lot of people who are watching this are probably not in entertainment. But, you know, there is this whole idea of, you were saying how, like, parents or families don't understand when you get into the arts and don't support it, or kind of think, like, oh, are you making money, all that. That also happens in other professions that are non-STEM related. So, you know, I didn't get a lot of support, and I got a lot of worrying when, you know, I started a business. And that's something I'm starting to see, that people are starting to have careers that are outside of the norm, like, you know, not trying to be like doctors or not trying to do something corporate. And yeah, like I see that maybe because Hollywood's like feels competitive, because you don't see a lot of these roles or these, you know, these like openings, these opportunities. But I'm kind of just like happy seeing that more and more people are leaving like corporate jobs, leaving behind things that, you know, they wanted to pursue when they were younger, but their families kind of put them on like a track. That happened with me. I was supposed to, you know, go into medicine and everything. And so when I started my business, they were like, well, how are you going to do business? Mm-hmm. I'm like, but why not? And it's like, you know, I think in the online world, I think they could be a little bit more supportive of that. It's happening in the makeup industry, by the way, because Sephora is picking up these like Indian brands.
Yeah, Live Tinted, right?
Live Tinted. There's a couple of them out there. There's like Kulfi. There's a couple of them, and it's all with other Indian people supporting them. So yeah, I would love to see that more in entertainment. But you know, I do that. Like, I try to watch something that, you know, represents us.
Well, I'm talking about people in the same space. And
In the
for
same
us, I'm
space,
giving you
yeah.
opinion
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, I think it maybe was more of a thing, like I said, like 10, 15 years ago. And I think and it's all kind of, as scarcity goes away, you know what I mean, then that kind of goes away. Mm-hmm. Like as more opportunities have developed, then I think for our people, then it's blossomed like a culture of not feeling like there's only one spot, there's 20 of us, so fucking don't talk to me, like I gotta figure this out, and I know it's nothing personal. Like it's never felt like fuck this guy. It's like, even back then, it's like if I didn't get something and my friend got it, or somebody I even just kind of knew, I wouldn't be like, right? I'd be like, all right, that guy's cool too. I'm glad one of us got that. But it doesn't mean I'd be like, hey man, I heard that they want it done this way. It's like, no, I would keep my competitive advantage and do my thing. But if he gets it, cool. Or if it's a thing that it could be any race and they happen to pick a brown person, 1,000%, I'll be like, that's so dope. They picked a Pakistani or Indian or whatever person. You know what I mean? But now it has changed a cool amount because the culture shifted, and I think people have realized like it's good to just support each other, and there's just more opportunities. There's more shows. There's more like characters, like, you know what I mean? There's often some Desi person or ethnic person in every single show, so that's cool, and I think that's made people feel like, yeah, like let's just all get after it, and I'll get what's meant to come to me, and that's how you need to live, or you're gonna go crazy.
I like what you said, competitive advantage, and I love, you know, yeah, what comes to me comes to me. But I still think it's wishful thinking that, you know, there's only X amount of, we're in Hollywood, it's a competitive business, you know? There's the people who have helped me, I'm only speaking from experience, are people that I have long-term relationships with from 20 plus years. But like nobody's going out of their way to be like, this guy's really good, because the truth is there's X amount of spots and there's so many more people gunning for these positions.
If I'm to be honest, I silently like hate my competition. And
good.
I do, and it drives me. And I mean, I would be nice to them, but like, you know, sometimes I treat life as like a video game, and that's like my nemesis.
Nobody gives a fuck about you in this business. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Nobody's
and
come to
there's-
save you.
No one's coming. And by the way, there aren't South Asian people really in design. It's really like when I go to these like trade conventions in Vegas, which is for design, you are hardly even going to find a brunette. They're all blonde, and which is okay. You know, there's a demographic and whatever. But so like I don't have like someone I could really talk to in that space in America for sure. But I think it's okay. Like, you know, people have different ways of making themselves better. Me, I actually silently, you know, like there's some people who are doing the same thing as me and I silently hate them, but I also admire them at the same time.
And there's nothing wrong with competition and being driven by competition. I think there's a difference between being driven by competition and it lifting you up and still being respectful to your competitor than being like, go fuck yourself, I hope you die in a ditch, and I'm going to talk shit about you to
that's just
everybody
a loser
else.
mentality.
That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
that's a difference. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to being a secure human. That's just what I feel. Like, nobody else, even if as hard as you try, will ever be me. I will never be like you on stage. I will never be like you on stage. If we all go for an audition, we will never read the exact same line in the exact same way. It won't happen. So when you start thinking about that, you go like, what am I competing against? Just because you're another brown person? That's stupid. White people don't think like that. So like, part of the culture has to be like, we have to stop thinking like that.
You don't think white people? You don't think white people think like
they're
that?
driven by competition, right? But that's what we're not saying don't be competitive because competition drives is capitalism in a way, right? Like you are driven to be better. But it doesn't have to mean that you tear somebody down. And I just don't think long term that ever helps people.
Yeah, I'm not talking self-sabotage here. When you go and you try to undermine people, that's another type of negative energy. I'm just talking about just being, going after a spot and, trying to help someone for the same exact thing.
I was runner-up for the big show that everybody, I don't think I've ever said it out loud. I was runner-up for Kamala in Never Have I Ever, and my friend Richa got it. Now, both of us were there at the test with Mindy. Neither of us looked and said, like, go fuck yourself. But yeah, am I looking at her like, damn, that's my competition. Like, but she's also my friend. And literally we both said at the end, we were like, man, whoever gets this, that's fucking awesome. What more can you do than that? Like, obviously, that's your competition. But at the same time, that's my friend. And she's clearly talented enough, and she was there. Now, when somebody gets the part, it's because that person was the right fit. Mm. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing beyond that. You know this, we're TV writers. Like, it's so much about just a right fit.
100%. Like if we knew there was shows going around and if Natasha sent me her sample and was like, hey, I'd love some notes on this, if you could think of any way to beef some stuff up, I would read it and give her notes back and go, here, hope this makes your script as good as possible. And I'm sure down the road, inevitably we'll be competing for similar shows. Like that's inevitable.
Yeah.
If she could send me something anytime, and I know I could send her something anytime, and we'd honestly try to help each other make our samples and submissions better. Because like she said, it's gonna come down to who's the better fit for the show and just trusting that like something else will come down the road for either of us. And as we help each other, we'll look out for each other, And another example of that is like, I still sometimes will do these like NACA showcases, right? Where you're showcasing for college bookers. And you have to run a 10-minute showcase set.
NACA, is that what you said?
Yeah, NACA.
Yeah.
And so you're doing a 10-minute showcase set in front of like 100 college bookers on this big-ass stage. And everyone, you pay $1,000 even to go submit. You fly yourself out, you put yourself up. This is all out of your pocket, hoping that you can have a good showcase and then it's a lot of money per show. So you're hoping that at least some of the bookers will book you to just help you break even. And then you maybe book 10, 15 gigs and then you can make like 20, 30 G's off of that, right? So you're competing with every other person on that lineup. But I've had friends who were with the same agent as me or a different agent, and we'll be like, hey, let's run our sets together and help each other just like run through our sets and just tighten it up and help each other pick what should go in the showcase set. And we'll get together and do that. And it could be, I don't give a shit what race those people are. They could be white, black, and they have been, or Desi. And we'll sit there and we'll do that. And it's just like, cool, whoever, you know what I mean? Like, let's just help each other and figure it out. But again, that doesn't mean that while it's going down and before I go up, I'm not like, I'm about to crush these motherfuckers. You know what I mean? I'll be like,
course.
or when they're up,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they think this guy's funny. I'm about to show them what comedy is. You know what I mean? Just like fucking building yourself up in your head before you go on stage. Like, yeah, you have to have those thoughts. You have to believe. It's like rap shit, right? Like you have to believe you're the best, especially if you're about to go on stage in front of 1,000 strangers and do anything. But that doesn't mean that prior to that, you're not like helping people you know. Or even if a random person, and I've done this too, I've had random Desi people hit me up in DMs and be like, hey, saw your clip, think you're so funny, I just started stand-up, do you have any advice for me? I'll send them back like a page of advice to people I've never met and I want nothing from, you know? Because I just think that that's, all you can do is try to live in a way you think is the correct way to live. And ultimately, that is what you can control, and that will make you happier. If you live in a place where you think it's you versus everyone and you're just fucking clinging, holding onto the bar soap so tight, that shit's gonna slip out. Nothing's gonna happen for you. Or even if it does, you're just gonna be permanently in this like Sith Lord mindset where you're just like living in a dark fucking everyone's against me space. And that's, you're not gonna be happy.
Yeah,
that
that'll
way.
mess up your stand-up too on stage.
The thing is, I think in general, networking is important. If you have like 6 degrees of separation, there's always going to be someone who has an opportunity that you weren't able to get yourself. I think just like being chill, being easy to work with, no matter what your profession is, like there'll be someone who thinks of you because, you know, you weren't that like catty with them, you weren't like backstabby, or you were good at what you do. And I just think that, I actually think it's a better long-term strategy to be nice to people within your own field or people you encounter in work.
I love what you said before too, which was like, even though you are competitive with them, you turn it into admiration.
Oh, I
also,
want them to
right?
be my friends eventually.
Yeah.
Like I want my friends to be better than me in almost every aspect if I can. Because like I'd be like proud. Oh, they chose me to be their friend. So I don't understand that kind of thing where someone wants to be like the big fish in a little pond. Like I want to be the little fish in a big pond because there's like so much out there. If you just get rid of your competitiveness that I think we're sometimes taught, like when you have friends who are just doing amazing things with their lives, or even your competition that you become friendly with in your industry that are doing amazing, just being surrounded by that enriches your life and enriches your opportunities.
Yeah, I've started to look at people, like especially as comics, like a bunch of my friends, I'm sure there are a lot of our mutual friends, have like recently blown up. And instead of being like, oh my God, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I've literally looked at it and gone like, man, how fucking cool. Like, what have they done? Like, and really looked at it like an inspiration, and to try to change habits, to be like, hey, what habits are they incorporating that I might be able to work on, to make my stuff better. But at the same time, like, you can help each other, but it's nobody else's responsibility
Sure.
to prop you up. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there are people that have helped me a lot, but like, it's also their prerogative to say like, no, not right now, or you're not ready, or whatever it is. Like, again, Russell's a good friend, but sometimes he's like, you still got time. You like, do more, because
Yeah.
especially when it was, you know, my
Sure.
managers were like, hey, you know him, put him up. Like, why doesn't he put you up? I was like, I just started stand up a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And he was like, do a bit
Develop.
more.
That's a positive thing to wrap this up on. By the way, I love Russell. Where can we catch you guys? Want to plug something? Anybody for us?
Just you can get in touch on Instagram. Feraz Ozel is my handle, FERAZOZEL. That's where I post most of my shit, show dates, and anything else.
Well, I don't perform anywhere, but you
Find her on Bumble.
Oh,
Naomi.
God.
Guys, hit her
You
up.
can't search people by name anyway, but you can search on Instagram at naomi.parmar.
I'm at Natasha Chandel on Instagram, natasha.chandel on TikTok, and check out my podcast, Kinda Dating.
Check me out, my social, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. Thanks for being here. Hope you guys are all successful. Till next time, take care.
Bye.